on Monday, I took you guys through a 3-act math task as if I was a teacher and you were my students. Hopefully you found it engaging, because we're going to now see it again through the lens of me describing some of the intentional teacher moves I was doing through that process. I've seen Dan Meyer do this a lot, and he does it so fluidly that it seems like he's going off the cuff, but it's actually kind of super scripted. And very intentional. So I'm going to sort of lift the veil on some of the intention. We're going to engage with a new problem. I'm going to treat you, I was treating you like students on Monday. I'm going to treat you like the teachers you are now as we engage with the problem around proportional reasoning. So it's like a 2 birds, 1 stone kind of situation. Though I would never throw 1 stone at any birds. And before I start, I'll say also the penny pyramid problem we did, on Dan Meyer's blog, there's a 36-minute video of him doing the penny pyramid with a group of teachers, and he's annotated all the important intentional questions that he asks. So you can go back and see the exact problem we did and see him and read about him describing the crucial moves there. So here we go. Come on. Really? I don't know. I thought it was going to link me to this video, but it wants me to download it. Let's download it and see what happens. Here it is. It's on my screen now. Here we go. So Act 1, usually it starts with some sort of artifact, usually a picture or video if you have the ability. This one has sound this time. So let's check out this video. Yep.
So I love running on the track in the fall. My split time, the time it takes me to run a lap, is 1 minute and 15 seconds.
Show off.
Knowing my split time helps me keep up my pace. But then winter comes and I have to run indoors. The indoor track is much shorter than the outdoor track. I try to use the same split time, but I'm basically walking.
Right, so Act 1 starts with your artifact, your video, your photo, whatever is going to inspire mathematical questions. And then I chose on Monday, to very open-endedly ask for what questions there were in the room. This is one strategy to use. It's probably clear to many of you that I anticipated the kinds of questions that would come. I also intended to take the whole class through the question, how many pennies or how much is it worth? With some intention of how we could address other questions as a sequel, which is what Dan called them, like the sequels, like how long would it take? We talked about how could you model that? That'd be a sequel. I had my own sequel queued up, which is the guy who built the pyramid wanted to make a 1 billion penny pyramid. How many layers would it have? So I was intentional about doing an open-ended question, but I also knew how I was going to funnel that down to the question I wanted everyone to work on. But I also tried my best to give value to every question. I asked you guys to vote on what you thought was interesting. I did say specifically that in the interest of time, we'd focus on this question first and see if we could come back to other questions later. So those were all intentional moves. So that's one strategy. Another strategy is to just pose the question. You don't always have to have this open-ended discussion. Sometimes that can really kill a whole lot of class time when you don't have it. So you just pose. In this case, when I do this problem, and I do this problem with my 7th graders, I don't do just open-ended questions. I start with, why doesn't it work out when Dan tries to use the same split time from the outdoor track on the indoor track? Have them chat about that. Right, because it might not be obvious. Right, it's super focused. It's not the big math we're going to do. It's like making sure that we understand the context. Right. Someone want to share, why doesn't that work? How would you? It's smaller. So if he's using the same time on a shorter distance.
So you should use the same time and see how far he goes.
If he's using, yeah,
The equivalent, right?
if he's using like the same time in a shorter distance, he's going to have to go slower if he's covering a different distance in a shorter distance in the same amount of time. So I'd probably do like a pair share or table discussion around that, and then ask for some opinions. And then that would lead us to the question that I really want to answer, which is, if Dan wants to be running at the same rate, which I'm sure he does, why should he use, or what should his indoor split time be? Actually, just remembered even a new question, like why do runners care about split time? Your athletes in the room will be super pumped to tell you why split time is an important thing to know about.
But at this point, then you would have to get them to understand that we need to know the distance of the big track and the small track in order to figure out.
Cool. You're a step ahead of me. Yeah,
Okay.
you're right. So this is Act 1. It's presents a situation that inspires some questions, or present a situation and pose the question for the students. Yeah,
Can we write about this in here?
absolutely. Thank you for pointing that out.
And there, I found them on the Georgia Frameworks, their PDS. And it's not supposed to be 3 pages. It's just the way Google Drive formatted them. So usually I have it back to back. It's one sheet where kids can record things as we go.
If you're confused right now, we're Becky and Brenna are referring to a page on it's 4.2, so it's the second page in the Day 4 tab. It's a blank template that Becky found and put in there for you guys. If you wanted to, you could either use this to record, if you wanted to create a 3-act math task from scratch, this could be a place to record.
Which is an option for your project.
Which is an option for your project, which is why that was one of the things I did when I did my project 2 years ago.
And this is up, it'll be uploaded, our and the notes.
This will all be up there, yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, so anything here you'll get, anything I'm saying, if you want to jot it down.
And just
Got it.
to clarify, there's 2 different formats for it, because the second one on page 4.5 was supposed to have a number line in one of the boxes, it doesn't. And that's for things where you can have estimates that are too low or too high, like with the penny problem.
Totally.
Put it on there for kids to visually see, okay, where would my estimate be on that number line? Or if one like this, then they can make their estimates in a free form box instead. So it's just 2 different versions of the same form for different types of problems.
So Act 1 is all about setting the context and making sure students understand the context. The third part, the last part of Act 1 that we did with the penny problem was the estimates. It's the what's a ridiculously too high number. So like if we're thinking about what Dan's indoor split time be, I would ask my students to think about what's an amount of time that's just too long. A lot of students go with 1 minute 15 seconds because he told us that was too long, right? And then we go with what's too short. Less brave students will say 1 second. It's fine. That's definitely ridiculous. We can go there. And then we go with a guess that you think is the actual time, right? Which hopefully is somewhere between your 1 second and your 1 minute 15 seconds. That's an important step too. The reason is that anyone can guess. So struggling students who generally don't have access to rigorous math problems or are afraid of word problems or whatever, everyone can guess. Your students who are afraid to be wrong, who are used to being right all the time, won't want to guess because their guess might be wrong. Just saying, experience has told me that. But that's an important part. So you pose your video, your picture. We either brainstorm questions or you just put the question out there, discuss the context, make students guess. That's Act 1. So we've kind of wrapped our brain, make sure we understand the context. Act 2 is the process of abstracting the important details of the context. That's when I ask, before you get to Act 2, make sure everyone knows what the question is that we're working on. That's the question we're going to work on. What should his indoor split time be?